Started, folks? Hi, my name is Justin Pirry. I'm the Cloud Services Lead at ForgeRock, an open source identity and access management provider. Most of you will know me, if you know me at all, from my work over the last 5 years with Mimecast, who you'll see plastered all over WPC, and representing you guys on the PEB, taking your feedback to Microsoft about how, the good and the bad about WPC. So for me, WPC is an enormous learning opportunity every year. And it's not just the likes of Satya, who we take from, or Phil. It's these sessions where we get to learn about not just Microsoft, but other stuff that's important to us. We don't often get a chance to put our heads up, poke our heads above the parapet and learn cool new business techniques that help us perform and succeed every day. So I don't know about you, but who hands up if you really enjoy presenting? Yeah? Okay, that's good. That's good. We got at least half the room. Because I know a ton of people are really scared of presenting or really hate presenting. But we have at least 50% of you that don't enjoy presenting. But I don't know about you. I always feel I can do better presenting. And we have today a master presenter who's going to really help us, hopefully, accelerate our presenting skills, give us a masterclass on actually how to be better. Dux is not only an awesome guy, but he's an awesome presenter. Companies pay Dux to fly around the world to present to them. And if you're in marketing, it's amazing because his target customers, his target audience, pay him to come and speak at them, which is just simply phenomenal and speaks volumes to how good a presenter he is. Every time he presents, I truly learn something cool, and I think today is going to be absolutely no different. Please give a warm WPC welcome to Dux.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure to be here. Just to let you know, I bought Justin 3 rounds of Guinness last night on tap. That's why he's so gracious. Again, thanks for being here. I'm very excited to be with you in the next hour to talk to you about how you can deliver compelling presentations in 5 steps. Again, my name is Dux Raymond Tsai, and Dux is my real name. As you may imagine, it was a hard time for me growing up with the name Dux, but I'm over it now. I got my ducks in a row, all right? See, that works with international audience. Now, what I wanted to share and clarify first, I was talking to somebody before we got started, and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Dux. I'm the CTO of AvePoint. Anybody know AvePoint? All right, a couple people, very good. And I'm the CTO of AvePoint, and we provide enterprise collaboration solutions to a lot of customers. We're a Microsoft partner. We're around the world. And then this person I was talking to scratched his head. We're learning about public speaking, right? How come there's a Microsoft partner talking about public speaking? I go, that's me. I'm not going to tell you that this is the formula, but what I'm going to share in the next hour is the formula I've been using in the last 10 years, talking to our customers, technical audience, and the tips and tricks I'm going to share is not just generic public speaking, but strategies that you can take home and use in your audience, in your world as well. And I've got the privilege in the last 10, 12 years not only to speak in various events, but I had the opportunity to coach technical executives. I had the opportunity to coach speakers for Microsoft conferences as well from the Microsoft engineering team. So this is an exciting topic for me, near and dear to my heart. So to get the conversation started, what do you think it takes to make 800 SharePoint conference attendees in Tokyo, Japan, to dance? You see, in April 2012, there was SharePoint conference in Japan. 1,000 people attended. And the day before, I was one of the speakers. And the day before, we had our rehearsals. I was one of the 2 speakers who only spoke English, so they gave us translators. The idea was I'm going to present in English, then the translator would translate in Japanese, and people would have headsets. You've seen those, right? So I was going through my presentation in the end, and I said, right about now, I'm going to make everybody in the room here in Japan stand up and do Gangnam Style with me. She cracked up. She goes, you crazy. I go, why? First of all, you're in Tokyo. Second, you're in Tokyo. People don't do that stuff here. They don't even clap. I go, I don't care. I don't know anybody here. When I'm done my session, I'm going home anyways. I'm still going to do it. Next day, the conference started. True enough, the keynote started. Japanese elevator music. Dun, 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 dun. Nobody was clapping. No sound. Very formal, right? I still can't believe it. This is the land of karaoke. And then I spoke. In a room of 1,000, in the end, 800 Japanese people stood up with me and did Gangnam Style. You want to learn how to do that? All right, let's get started. So, again, my name is Dux. I'm with AvePoint Public Sector. I've been involved in the technology industry for a long time. Very passionate about technology. More importantly, very passionate on how we can help customers around the world to drive collaboration with confidence. I'm a SharePoint MVP, very honored to have this title given to me by Microsoft in the last 4 or 5 years or so. And I also wrote the book SharePoint for Project Management. Anybody read that book? Man. Tell you what, do you want me to give you a copy of this book? Okay. After this presentation, stop by the AvePoint booth, get scanned. I'll send everybody a code. You can get a free copy from Amazon or Microsoft Press. How's that? Does that work? All right. So, been very involved with technology, but then on the business side of the house, I feel like when I work with customers, being able to convey and communicate is key, not only to drive success for our business, but also for the customer as well. So in this presentation, you're going to walk away with 3 things. Number 1, I'm going to share practical techniques on how you can deliver compelling and effective presentations. The way I'm going to cover and talk to you about this is a very systematic and practical approach. From the beginning where, well, Dux, my boss told me I got to speak at WPC. What do I do? How do I write my session description? So I'll share some techniques. How many bullets should I have in my PowerPoint? Should I put pictures or videos? So we'll talk about that. Second, you'll learn how to effectively engage with your audience. So, Dux, should I be asking questions or doing demos? Or should I have people raise their hand? What kind of questions can I ask? Can I joke around? Right? We'll talk about all those techniques. And then lastly, I want you to walk away with a plan on how you can sharpen your public speaking skills. And again, I want to cover this in a very pragmatic approach. There's a lot of science behind this, but you're going to walk away, hopefully at 2 o'clock, 2:30, with a solid idea on how you're going to implement all this. So let's get going. You see, a lot of us think that great public speakers are natural public speakers. Research after research has proven that it's not true. Public speaking can be learned. Great public speaking can be learned and must be practiced. I remember the first time I spoke, I did training in 1996. By the way, when I started my career, I started an assembler. If you don't know what that is, you weren't born yet. So I was an assembler programmer for Siemens, and then my boss like, hey, you got to present the customer the new code you wrote for the Motorola chip, EEPROM. All right. So I was in a room of 20 people, and I sucked. Big time. It was so bad that we didn't got the business. I didn't get fired, but that day onwards, I thought, man, I want to be better. So I started writing these little ideas and formulas on improving myself. You know, I would write up little topics and start presenting things. And it's been, I guess, 15 years now. So I have this one pager that I use every time I do a presentation as a guide for me to build and prepare for a presentation. So the good news is, this can be learned. No one is born a presenter. I have a picture of former President Clinton there because he is an awesome public speaker. There's case studies after case studies written about him on how he speaks, his movement, little gestures that he do. He has a personal speaking coach in the last 20 years that helps him every presentation that he delivers. By the way, if you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. Follow the hashtag WPC14. While I'm presenting, I've been tweeting all these resources that I've been talking about. How the heck do you do that? I'm wearing Google Glass. In case you don't know. So, as a presenter, a lot of us think I'm going to do this presentation. I'm going to do this training. All I'm doing is sharing slides and videos. You're not just a presenter. We as presenters, we play 5 very important roles. First, we are learning managers. And what that means is we should manage the time that we spend in the session to ensure that whatever we want people to learn, they learn. Second, being a presenter, we are the expert. I'm not here today because I called Justin one day, hey, I think I want to do public speaking presentation. In the last 12 years, I've been fortunate that I've been doing this around the world in various settings. I've learned my mistakes. I've shared what I've learned. You're the expert. People want to learn stuff from you and be bold about it. Third, you're the company representative. I stand here representing AvePoint. So what does that mean? I should represent AvePoint well. I should represent Microsoft well. I should be here talking about, I really like iPhone, which is true, and Windows Phone really sucks big time. And it sucks. I mean, even if you have an opinion about that, but you're representing Microsoft or AvePoint, you keep those personal opinions to yourself. Fourth, as a presenter, you're a coach. It's your job to motivate, inspire, and excite people. Lastly, as a presenter, you are the host. Now, let's think about this. What does a host do? Anybody had a recent World Cup party at their house? Maybe not the Brazilian guys there. You had a World Cup party, right? In your party, what did you do? You had the drinks, you had the food, big screen TV, people came in, hey, what do you like to drink? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Y'all with me? And that's the same here. It doesn't matter if you're sharing SQL Server or Azure Machine Learning. You have to own the room. So we play these 5 roles, and we have to play it well and juggle it well throughout our session. Now, knowing what these roles entail, okay, ducks, I get it. I'm not just up there flipping slides. How do I do all this? What are the steps you keep talking about? So here are the 5 steps, and I'll go through these 5 steps in very practical detail. I'll share a lot of resources and examples for you. So step 1, to deliver a compelling presentation, just like anything else, preparation has to be intentional. And what I mean by intentional preparation, it starts with developing a catchy abstract. Now, for those not familiar with the word abstract, the way you describe your presentation should be catchy. I really dislike when I go to a conference and then the session title is Azure Machine Learning. Or the title is Windows Phone 101. Very vague. What you want to do in events like this, when you want to write a catchy abstract, the title should be something they can walk away with. So, for example, your title should be short and relevant. Use numerical values. Make sure it's no more than 7. If you've noticed, a lot of my presentations, if you know of me, I always have numbers in my presentation. 5 steps to deliver compelling presentations. 3 ways to upgrade to SharePoint 2013. 6 proven tips on how to be a successful project manager. Y'all with me? Okay. I get it. Why 7? Why not more than 7? There's been research that's done. We as human beings, the way we learn, the way we think, pretty much caps at 7 at any given point in time. Right? Anything more than that, there's going to be a preconceived notion, oh, that's too much, I can't do it. I was at a project management conference. There was a session that says, in a 1-hour session, 99 ways to be the best project manager. I didn't attend that because I'm like, I can't do it. And another important thing, if you can, your session title, make it short. In this age of social, if you have a freaking long title, it's not tweetable or retweetable. So make it short as you can. When you write your description, you want to specify tangible benefits. Include measurable and achievable steps. You will learn how to Prepare for your presentation. Engage the audience. Open your session. Facilitate interaction. Make it actionable. So as an example, here's a session abstract I sent for a conference a while back. I went online, I filled it out. Title, 5 Steps to Delivering Dynamic Presentations. Description, as you know, it takes a lot to prepare and practice to be the public speaker you want to be. In this session, you learn how to, 1, speak publicly in a convincing and confident, concise style. Identify and apply key skills of effective public speaking. Employ an effective 4-step method. Very actionable. And in all my presentations, doesn't matter if it's technical or non-technical, there's always a takeaway. You will learn how to do these things. Versus in this session, you'll learn everything about Azure Machine Learning. Very vague. What do you guys think so far? Good stuff? All right. Now, the other aspect. So let's say you start writing your description. You got a catchy title and a great abstract. As you start building your presentation, you have to think about how attendees learn. You see, as adult learners, our brain is not a tape recorder. We're not kids anymore. I have 2 wonderful children. My son Johan is 8. My daughter Danica is 4. It's just amazing how much information they can suck in, like a sponge. Unfortunately, I'm not the same. And you're not the same either. So what's the point, ducks? You see, our brain is not a tape recorder. The way we learn is we take incoming information and relate it to what we already know. In short, our head is like SQL Server. It's a relational database. It's not object-oriented. You get that? Huh? So we can't just keep slamming information expecting people to learn. I'm going to prove this. Okay, I want to do a quick exercise to everybody. I'm going to prove that the way we learn is we connect it with information that we know, okay? So if you have pen and paper, use that. If you have your tablet computer, use that. Or if you just want to look at the screen, you can do that too. I'm going to flash a bunch of words, and I'm going to keep it up there for 5 seconds. And I want you to memorize as much as you can, okay? Go. Okay, write it down. Write it down. How much of those 8 words do you remember? You sure? All right, so let's go back. How many do you remember? Who remembered 8? 7? 6? Good job, Sonny. 5? All right. 4? Okay, we'll stop there. I don't want to embarrass everybody. Okay, let's do this again. This time, I'm going to show you a bunch of different words. Okay, write it down. Write it down. Okay. How many remembered 8? See a couple hands. 7? 6? Obviously, it's much more than the first set of words. So what's my point? My point is, as you start building your presentations, you don't just say, oh, I got to talk about, how do we start integrating AD, and then you go off another tangent. Well, what about payment, or what about authentication? It can't just be a mixed bag of stuff. It has to tell a story. Right? It has to start from existing information that people can relate with. Now, as you build your story, you got to identify main points. For me, I always start where the pain is. In this example, the pain is I want to be a great speaker because I suck, okay? So some of us may relate to that. I relate to that. So what's my first step? The first step is build a great description. So you paint the picture. Stick to what's important. In an hour session, I can't share with you and teach with you every single thing that I know and I've learned. It's just no way. For me, what I want to share are things that's hard to find out there. So if you're going to present something and you know it's clearly out there, MSDN or TechNet, there's no value for people coming here, then forget those things. Think about things that you know and maybe only a handful of people know. Visually highlight keywords or phrases. That's why I love this new modern interface and modern design way of presenting, because it's much less text. You're forced to highlight and showcase what's important. Use repetition to reinforce learning. And repetition doesn't have to be mundane or boring. You could do repetition in a bunch of different ways, and I'll show some techniques in a second. And present your content in a very structured story. Tell a story. As you build your presentation, most of our presentations are in PowerPoint. So here's how I build my presentations. The framework begins with what's the need? What's the pain? The pain is, I was taking a picture. The pain is, I want to be a better presenter. So what's the solution? And then you don't end there. What's the call to action? What should you go do? And when I build my slides, here's my rules in building slides. First, I do not put complete sentences, nor paragraphs. It's all phrases. Why do you think that is, sir? Why no complete paragraph?
Because it's boring to read. And
it's boring to read. All right, very good. What else? What happens when I have a full-blown paragraph there? Very good. Lena, right? Lena? So Lena says, you read, you don't listen. And we just do that subconsciously. Whereas if you just put words and phrases, people might not know what you're talking about. You as a speaker, you're forced to discuss and talk about it. Second, within a slide, my rule is 9 bullets max. That's it. What do you mean, Docs? Is it 9 main bullets and more sub-bullets? I don't care. Total 9 bullets. It could be 3 main bullets, 2 sub-bullets, or 3 sub-bullets each. I don't know. But 9 bullets max. Because again, it's that rule, 7 plus minus 2. 18 font size minimum. I hate folks when they're like, oh, I got to slam more stuff into this. I want to make font 4. And then the way I measure time, a slide is about 2 to 3 minutes. If I'm doing demos, the value of the slide is 3 minutes. If I'm not doing demos, the value of the slide is 2 minutes. So, for example, give me an example, Docs. So, for example, today I'm doing a 1-hour presentation, no demo, 60 minutes. So 60 divided by 2, 30. 30 maximum slides. That's it. So at that point, I'm already boxing myself how much content I can sneak in. Why is that important, Docs? I can't tell you how many sessions I've been to, unfortunately, in Microsoft events where it's like 5 minutes remaining, and then the speaker realizes he starts flying the slides. Man, I got 80 more slides. You've been there. He's done that. You don't want that, right? Well, Docs, you don't understand. It's hard. There's a lot of stuff I need to talk about. Making it simple is not easy, but that's our job. Right? As you build your presentation, keep in mind why I have these stringent rules. I did research on this. I didn't make this up. This was eye-opening for me on how much people remember. For example, if your content has 9 bullet points per slide, and let's say this is a demo session, you produce 20 slides, and there's 20 slides, what you're talking about is 100 points total for the whole presentation, not per slide. This should be 180 points per presentation. Research has found after 24 hours, people will only remember half of that 180 points, or half of the presentation you showed. So by tomorrow, you just remember half the stuff I talk about. 2 days later, you'll only remember a quarter of what I talk about. What's going to retain in people's head through time is only 8%. Think about that. People will only remember 8% of what you presented. So the question is, how do you make sure the 8% they remember is the 8% you want them to remember? Y'all with me? Yeah? How do you do that? Repetition is key. Telling a structured story is key. Reinforcing how people learn is key. And when we talk about reinforcing how people learn, this is another big issue I see with a lot of speakers. And I learned this as well. When we build presentations, we should address 3 modes of learning because people learn 3 different ways. 1, people learn visually. 2nd, people learn through an auditory way of learning. And 3rd, people learn through a kinesthetic way of learning. So let me share what these means. What we mean by visual learning is what we see. So the slides, the deck, the words, that's visual learning. Auditory learning is almost always when you talk about a process and explain it. So for example, to enable Project Online, first, you have to go to Microsoft.com/project. 2nd, click on the button that says Sign Up Now. 3rd, fill up the form, put your credit card. 5th, create the first site collection. Auditory, very process-oriented. We're really good at that. Where we lack is in this 3rd bucket, where we build our presentation that's conducive for kinesthetic learning. And research has shown that kinesthetic learning is the best way to learn. What's kinesthetic learning, Douglas? Kinesthetic learning is getting the audience engaged. And there's different ways to get audience engaged. And the most effective way to get audience engaged is to get their emotions up and be able to sympathize and or empathize. So being able to tell stories, being able to share lessons are key. So one of the things that, as you've seen, some of you may look at that video and look familiar, is showing Yammer and social. So one of the things I want to share, I'm originally from Manila, Philippines. And as some of you may know, last year, the worst storm ever recorded hit the Philippines. A lot of lives were lost. But what a lot of us don't know, a lot of lives were saved because of social media. You see, the local rescue team that were supposed to save survivors, they died. They got swept away by the storm. So as soon as the storm left, there's no voice. Voice was hard, but data was up. People started tweeting, posting on Facebook. We need help. We're here. The GPS location were captured. Brilliant. The power of social. And a better story is the first responders that came in were from the U.S. Navy Pacific Command in Hawaii. The U.S. Navy Pacific Command relied a lot on technologies, both external social media and internal enterprise social. They use SharePoint. I believe they use Yammer. They use mobile technologies to coordinate the relief efforts. How did that story make you feel about social? It makes it real, right? It's not just talking about Yammer or social media as another tool. We're talking about lives were saved. And that, my friend, is kinesthetic learning. As you intentionally prepare, write a catchy title and abstract, make sure your presentation tells a story, make sure you address visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning. You've got your slides ready. Showtime. The second step to deliver a compelling presentation is when you start your presentation, you have to be very proactive. So what do we mean by that? Before the presentation, go to the room, if you can, 45 minutes before. Just like today, I was here by 12. You need to set the scene. You need to conduct your dry run. You prepare, right? Be at the venue 45 minutes prior and make sure your room is set up. Boy, I can't tell you how many times I've been in presentations where 5 minutes, the presenter is so frazzled, the VM's not running, right? Video won't work because he's using a Mac. Like me. Yeah, I couldn't get it to work earlier, and I thought Macs were perfect, right? Got to do it. Prepare. And why else is this important? You as an attendee, when you walked in, I'm walking around talking to people. How did that make you feel, Miss Sylvia? How did that make you feel?
I've been looking for a seat.
She's been looking for a seat, so she can care less about me. That's all right. But as an attendee for me, wow, it feels like guy's prepared. He's not all frazzled, jumping around, shouting to the tech guy. Impressions matter. And talking about impressions, welcome your guest. And this is one of the challenges I see working with technical folks. A lot of times when I work with technical folks, they're just sitting or standing back here, waiting to present, looking down on their deck and not talking to anybody. For me, it's very important to make people feel welcome. You're the host. People walk in, they're not sure. First of all, I don't really know if it's worth my time. I don't know if this guy's good or a gal's good or not, unless you know the person. So you got to make that person feel welcome. Exercise your host role. Greet people right away. Hey, welcome to the session. How's the conference so far? Where are you from? Oh, Sweden. I was there a month ago. Yeah. Talk about little things. And here's my little secret. I get nervous every time I speak. But by doing this, it makes me feel less nervous. Because as I start talking to people, getting to know people, and I start my presentation, I look at those individuals I've talked to, it gives me comfort. At least I kind of sort of know the person already. Very effective. Yeah. Now, you're about to start. You're going to start talking. You're going to start presenting. This is the critical moment in the entire presentation. How you open your presentation, your initial pitch matters. Research has shown the audience will give a speaker 90 seconds as soon as that speaker opens his or her mouth. And in that 90 seconds, the audience will decide, will I focus and listen or will I zone out? I may be sitting here, but maybe I can care less. Y'all with me? Make that 90 seconds count. So what do, docs? There's a lot of things you could do. Not only can you greet people, but you can provide some statistics. How do you like the weather today? It's so hot, right? Well, wait till next year when we go to Orlando. Or, did you know that the biggest fear today of any American is not public speaking? It's the pictures on their phone dying and losing it. So start off with those little things, and obviously, the more related to your session is, the better. Establish your expertise right away. One of the things I highly discourage you from doing is to talk about your life story forever and ever. Oh, I went to Harvard, an MBA, I met the president. People don't care. But you got to set your expertise right away. I've been doing this in the last 12 years. I've presented a lot of technical events. Justin, on my behalf, talked about I've been around the world. Establish your expertise. And set realistic expectations. You're not going to walk away here as Tony Robbins. I'm not going to promise you that. But what I'm going to promise you is I'm going to give you a recipe on how you can improve yourself. Yes? Initial pitch matters. And as soon as you get started, you set up the room, you be the good host, you open it up, you start presenting. So how do you do that? You should be able to deliver a presentation interactively. Engage with the audience. It's okay. Well, docs, you're doing a technical presentation. Isn't that not cool? No. For example, it kind of relates to this and the opening. If you go to YouTube, look up my name. One of the things I love to do in industry events is I like to mess with people. I always start my presentation in the weirdest but most legal way. I'm not going to do anything illegal. So there's one time, there's an event in Atlanta. They wanted me to keynote on this idea of SharePoint being able to integrate with line of business systems. So the idea of SharePoint and other critical systems like SAP, Salesforce, what have you. So my topic was this idea of business critical SharePoint. So the organizer said, so Dux, what do you want to do? I go, here's what I want to do. Once you introduce me, turn the lights down, play Dead Mouse. If you don't know who Dead Mouse is, techno music. 30 seconds in, I want a full-on Scottish bagpiper in kilt, bagpiping, and then the techno music playing good, like a mashup idea. And then 2 minutes after, I'm going to walk in full-on kilt, and I'll beatbox. And I did that. Shook people up, 8 o'clock in the morning. But it opened my session about this idea of a mashup. Right? And I did a bunch of other stuff. I had one time the Atlanta Falcons drumline open for me. I did Jay-Z, Empire State of SharePoint, full on. I had Vanilla Ice's SharePoint is nice, nice baby. It's fun. Gets people engaged. But make sure you're not doing it just for pure entertainment. You got to do it because you want to provide what I call edutainment. You educate and you entertain people. That's a kinesthetic part. People learn more. So as you deliver, one of the techniques I use a lot, especially with technical delivery, is to use analogies. And this is a very, very important technique in technical presentations, especially when we're talking to non-technical people. So, for example, this diagram up here, I don't know if you guys remember this when ASP.NET first came out. This was late 90s. I had a company. We did system integration. We build web applications using ASP.NET. And I was pitching why ASP.NET is great compared to ASP or CGI Perl or other technologies. But the problem was I was pitching it to executives. Just by looking at this picture, I'm like, a bunch of verbiage, I don't know what that means. So here's how I explained it. I love food, so all my analogies would almost always be about food, right? So I said, so here's why ASP.NET is great. You see, every Thanksgiving, I go to Atlanta, and I visit my aunt and her family for Thanksgiving meal, because my aunt makes a killer feast. So as I go there, one of the things she makes that I love is chicken parmesan. You guys know what chicken parmesan is? Okay. So I'm so excited that she starts preparing about 2, 3 o'clock Thanksgiving Day. But about that time, I'll just be sitting in the kitchen with her as she's making the meal, talking to her, but me just waiting for the food to come. So it takes a couple hours, maybe 2 hours later, chicken parmesan is done. I take a first taste of it, I love it, and it's great. But I had to wait because she had to prepare for it. And at about this time, my cousin would walk in. He comes in late. Does he have to wait for the chicken parmesan? No, it's there. He just takes a bite, eats it. Well, friends, that's what ASP.NET is all about. You see, with ASP.NET, when the code is first loaded, you kind of wait a few seconds because it gets compiled. But once it's compiled, the next request, the next person who asks for that page, boom, it's so fast, unless you have to cook it again or change the code. Whereas older technologies like ASP, CGI, it gets compiled every time it's run, which is slower. They remember ASP.NET is chicken parmesan. What do you guys think about that? It works, right? Use analogies. Shared experiences. When you want to drive interaction during your presentation, while you're the supposed expert, you're not perfect. Talk about how you failed, but more importantly, talk about what you've learned from it and how you addressed it. This is important because the benefit to the audience is, wow, I'm about to go down this road, but he or she has been there, so this is what I should be doing or not. Right? Experiences matter. Some other tips. Stage fright is normal. And how do I overcome stage fright? Again, I go back to my first step, preparation. I'm not saying you'll be less, or I'm not saying nervousness would totally go away, but if you know you're prepared, the stage fright would be less. If you can, minimize speech hiccups. Now, what's speech hiccups, docs? It's like, you know. I mean, it's okay if you do it, but if you do it enough in a specific rhythm, people will start playing drinking games in the audience. That's number 3. And why do we do that? We do that because we're thinking. We do that because we're not prepared. Now, if we're thinking, it's okay, and it's okay to be quiet. You pause. I don't know if you guys know James Earl Jones, Darth Vader. I love watching his presentations. He walks up the stage, he would say, "Good morning." I promise you, it's like 3 minutes of silence, but it's like, oh. What brilliance will he say next, right? If he keeps saying, that kind of takes that excitement away. Drive interaction every 8 to 10 minutes. So this is a little tricky. This is just my thing. This is not any research, but I think this works. What that means is you got to shake it up. We go back to the visual, auditory, kinesthetic learning. I found that the audience has, especially within this generation, our attention span is within that time, 8 to 10 minutes. We'll listen, and then suddenly our thoughts go off. So as you build your presentation, make sure within those 8 to 10 minutes, you got to shake it up. Maybe you start talking about a process, or maybe you amp up the kinesthetic learning with stories or experiences. Maybe you do a demo. You ask questions. Shake it up. Maximize stage movement. Nobody said you just have to be stuck in a podium. Now, I get it. If you're doing a demo, you got to go up, but walk around, talk to people, as long as the room allows for it. First step, intentional preparation. Second step, proactive opening. Third step, interactive delivery. Fourth step, ensure that you facilitate engagement. How do we do this? You can interact with the audience a lot of different ways. Okay? One of the ways we're so used to is asking questions. I'll share some techniques on how you ask questions. The other one is we do a lot of demos, which is cool, which is great. I'll share my thoughts on that. But I want to spend some time talking about this middle one called provide active learning activities. It's part of the kinesthetic learning model. So first, let's talk about how do you interact with the audience and ask a question properly. Okay, so there's a technique to this. You don't just randomly ask questions. I mean, you could, but to make it much more effective, first and foremost, when you ask a question, right, there are 2 types of questions you can ask. One, it's called open-ended question. No right, no wrong. You want to steer engagement. For example, who's from Sweden? Raise your hand. All right, very good, very good. Who's from Brazil? Maybe don't raise your hand. It's open-ended. You just want to steer engagement. Now, you want to make it related. Who's still on SharePoint 2013? Who's moved to Office 365 SharePoint Online, right? The second type of question is what I call close-ended. What that means is there is a finite answer to that. And when you start asking questions, there's a way you ask these types of close-ended questions. First is it could be rhetorical. What rhetorical means is a question I ask that I intend to answer myself. I do that a lot. I ask myself, hey, Docs, what do you think of this? Or, Docs, what were the 3 steps again? This is an effective technique to review what you've talked about so far, rhetorical questions. The second type of close-ended question you can ask is a group-based close-ended question. Who says, or who agrees that the latest version of Link is 2013? Yes. Who doesn't agree? No, right? Group-based. The third type of close-ended question is targeted. And what I mean by targeted, you're targeting a specific person. It's important how you do targeted question because you want your audience or that person to be successful. So what's the technique? When you want to do targeted question, you ask the question first. Where is WPC next year? You don't call on somebody, you ask the question first. Now, as soon as you ask that question, this is human nature, you look at the audience, and if somebody looks down or looks away from you, they don't want to answer. And that's okay. And then go find that person who keeps looking at you, me. Because you want that person to be successful, you want the room to be successful. You call on that person, right? Julie. Julie says, WPC next year is in Orlando. Great job, Julie. Let's give her a big round of applause. When the person responds, you do three things. You restate. I don't know if everybody heard Julie. So I said, Julie said it's in Orlando. Reward. Great job, Julie. Let's give her a big round of applause. I mean, ducks, how come you're nitpicking every little thing? Every little thing is important. It took me 12 to 15 years to figure all this out. I'm still learning every day. And it works, I tell you. The next type of learning is you do group-based learning activities. So for example, I do this a lot. I have a Jeopardy-like game that I use. So let me bring it up on screen. All right. Can we bring the audio of the other computer down? Okay, good. And we'll bring it back up in a second. So when I do training, actually this is much more effective for training. The way I engage and ensure people learn is when let's say we do Office 365 training or SharePoint training, I would say, hey guys, you got to listen up because after this 2-hour training, we'll do this thing called Office 365 Jeopardy. We're going to give away prizes, okay? And we'll group you in teams and whatever. You guys want to play this game? All right. Welcome to Office 365 Jeopardy. I'm your host, Dux. So to get this conversation going, let's first start with a category SharePoint doesn't suck. For 100. What feature in SharePoint allows up to 99 people edit a document at the same time? Raise your hand. Man, this is a tough crowd. You sure you're partners? What's that, sir? What is, to be more specific, so what is, it's not document collaboration, anybody? It's actually a feature. I'm not making this up. It's in SharePoint Online and SharePoint 2013. Yes, sir? What feature? Yes? What feature is this called? Very good. What is co-authoring? Let's give them a big round of applause. I'll give you a prize for this. What just happened here? It's fun. But who else in this room learned about co-authoring? All the other partners. Shame on us. You could do this. Anybody want this? You want this? It's just PowerPoint. Bunch of macros. I'll make sure everybody gets this, right? All the stuff, if you give me your contact, stop by the booth, I'll send all these resources to you. But point being is, friends, you can make it fun. You can make it engaging. The key is you want to make sure people learn. As you do your presentation, exploit social tools. I love social. I use a lot of tools. In fact, at 3 o'clock today at the Expo Hall, if you want to come by, I'm going to share tips and techniques for partners on how to maximize social for your business, a 30-minute session. But during presentations, I use social to the max. Who's tweeting right now or watching tweets? Some, couple people, all right. You may see that I've been tweeting, right? So the way I do it is I do it two ways. One, I schedule tweets. So every time a slide goes out and there's related information to that slide, I have an add-on to PowerPoint that a tweet goes out. And some of my tweets are actually scheduled based on time. I share a lot of my learnings and research, again, through social, be it LinkedIn, Twitter. I use tools to do that. I use hashtags a lot. And hashtags is very important because not only it's used throughout this conference, but once this conference is done, it's an easy way for me to look it up. Like, I hope throughout this session people are tweeting, talking to me. I can't respond, but I'm going to use those hashtags to go back and respond later once the presentation is done. So take advantage of social. Awesome, awesome, fantastic way to facilitate engagement. So we talked about the first 4 steps on how you deliver compelling presentations. Intentional preparation, proactive opening, interactive delivery, and ensure you facilitate engagement. The last step on how you can deliver a compelling presentation is you have to close at a high. You have to motivate people and walk away inspired and walk away encouraged that they could do this. You play your coach role. Form of closure is important. You have to summarize your presentation in a way where you kind of recap and say, hey, look, this is what we said you're going to learn when we got started, so we did cover all of it. Second, provide a call to action. Once this session is done, go and sign up and try out Yammer. Once this session is done, go to the expo floor and stop by the AppPoint booth, get scanned. We'll give you a copy of Dux's book. And third and most important thing, evaluate the session. Remind people, go use your Windows or WPC app if you download it and provide your evaluation, or go online to put in the evaluation. You see, if we did not prepare well, almost always in a presentation, people rush till the end and these things don't happen, and people walk away feeling incomplete or it was rushed. Right? Connect beyond the presentation. Today, technology abounds, and that's so powerful. Provide a lot of resources. Like I said, sharing on social, and it stays there. If you're not on Twitter, go to Twitter later, look me up. You see I've been tweeting throughout this session. A lot of great resources. Second, take advantage of social media past the presentation to talk to people. Hey, thank you for coming to my session. Any questions you guys may have, feel free. Let's connect. Let's talk. Jump on Yammer. Microsoft has done a great job in putting together external networks around specific solutions. So I know Office 365 has a great Yammer network. The U.S. partner team has put together a great Yammer network so you can engage with other partners and the speaker there. And lastly, it may sound old school, but as you engage with people and you want to connect with them, push out newsletters. So in my example, I write a blog. I have a blog site called meetdux.com, and there's a way for people to sign up for updates when I post new blog articles, put a new presentation and video, and that's how I keep track with my audience. Again, we have a lot of great technology that allows for this. So, 5 steps to deliver compelling presentations. 1, intentional preparation. 2, proactive opening. 3, read this out loud with me. 1, 2, 3. 3. I know it's hot, but I'm the guy on the spotlight here. All right, let's do this again. What's the 3rd step? Delivery. 4. And 5, motivational closing. So what do you guys think? Is this useful? So, first of all, my question, is this doable? Okay? You're going to do these 5 steps, right? Okay? So are you ready to deliver compelling presentations? If you're ready, stand up. Let's do these 5 steps. Stand up. All right, stand up. We're going to do the steps, all right? I'm going to show you the steps. Step 1. What's step 1? Intentional preparation. Step 2. What? Proactive opening? What? Come on. Proactive opening. Step 3. What? Step 3, interact. What? Interactive delivery. Step 4, facilitate engagement. And step 5, motivational closing. Let's bring the music up. All right, we'll do this 5 steps, huh? All right. Step 1, practice. Step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Ready? Okay. You gotta show what we're made of. Let's do it.
Open Gangnam Style.
All right, good job, everybody.
Open Gangnam Style.
And that's how I made 800 Japanese people dance. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'd love to connect with you. Again, have a fantastic rest of the week, and enjoy the rest of the WPC.